Hello, guys, and Happy New Year. And I'm wishing you a prosperous 2022. And thank you for everyone who's already here. Sorry, we are a minute late, but we actually lost power at the other house. So we had to quickly pack everything up, come here. So a little late, but thank you everyone for joining. Hello, Anthony, Tamra, Angelo, Mac, Sandrita, Osgur. Nice to see some familiar faces and new faces. So thank you for joining. And we have a very cool session planned today. We're going to be basically covering some stats on FBA. So what's the outlook on FBA? We're going to review success rates, how many sellers are signing up, how many sales some of this, or on average, sellers make, and also which marketplaces are sellers joining the most. Then I'm going to go over some of the member questions. So I prioritize your questions. Thank you for sending them in. Those are members of the channel. So if you do want to join our membership as well, we've got a Facebook community and we do these live Q&As and provide product ideas each month. So you can find a link to that below. And then after that, we're going to do open Q&A for everyone. But I hope everyone had an awesome new year. I scheduled this for the 2nd because I know the 1st is usually hangover day for a lot. But I hope that you had a good party, that you had a good time with friends and family. So I'm going to jump straight in here, but feel free to add questions to the chat box as I'm going. I'm going to screen share. And then after that, I'm going to come back and I'm going to jump straight into your questions here. I'll bring them up on screen and answer those for you as well. So let's start with our stats on FBA here. And let me just find this for you guys here. Perfect. So let me know if you guys can see Canva over here, please. If you guys can see Amazon FBA Q&A special. Awesome, Angelo. Thank you. So let's jump straight into this then. And so we are doing a special Q&A today, but very often we actually do these just for the members within our membership. But I wanted to open this up. And in fact, a lot of the members said we should open this up to the public, get more people in and more questions because it's more valuable for everyone. But we're going to start with our stats for Amazon in 2022. Is it a good year to start? How do things look? How is Amazon performing in general? We're also going to do our member questions and then an open Q&A. So let's start with the stats. Now, if we look at the revenues, we have up until Q3. So I don't have Q4 data yet, but up until Q3. And you can see that Amazon's doing about 110 billion in sales revenue in Q3. So we're on an upwards trajectory. Obviously in Q4 of 2020, we had a spike. So you can expect an even bigger spike probably here in Q4 2021, which we just had. But in general, revenues are going up. People are buying more and more on Amazon. Third-party sales as a percentage of all sales. So on Amazon themselves sell products, but there's also third-party sellers like yourself, like myself, who sell products, who create their own brands on the platform, who sell private label products. And so as a percentage of all the sales that happen on Amazon, currently we're at 56% of all those sales. So quite soon, you're going to see that 60% of all the sales done on Amazon are by third-party sellers. So again, this is good. And then if we look at the monthly new third-party sellers, so how many people are signing up to sell on Amazon US in this example? Now, I've only got up until 2020. You can see December 2020 here. I'm waiting on the new stats for 2021 because I think this has been a downward trend. Even in some of the stuff I do, like I do quite a few YouTube videos, etc. we've actually seen quite a downward trend in terms of the kind of excitement or engagement or attention in this area, which would parallel the data we see on screen here, that less new sellers are signing up, that there's actually less competition. So I think that's, although strange, it seems almost counterintuitive because people are working from home. You would think they're starting new businesses from home, but perhaps they're just not Amazon businesses. I think it's impacted by the shipping crisis, which has made profits much more difficult. And also a rise in other selling platforms. You do have platforms like Walmart and Etsy, and Etsy has seen huge growth. So perhaps that's taking a bit of the market share, or there's just less hype in the space. Either way, it's good, because if you are going to sell on Amazon, you can expect lower competition. Then if we look at Prime Day sales by small and medium businesses on Amazon this year, Prime Day in 2021, you can see the small and medium-sized businesses are actually making about as much as in 2019. 2020 was a massive spike. So again, this is paralleled with how Amazon's running Prime Day and those days on Amazon. Most of the sales are actually Amazon products. So they're using a lot of that ad space. But I also thought I would just point this one out because we're seeing overall less sales. And this could be on Prime Day specifically, but it would parallel the trend of fewer sellers than we saw in 2020. And so here, if we look at the most popular third-party seller marketplaces, so we know how many are roughly signing up, and it's less. Out of those, which marketplaces are they signing up for? Obviously, .com, so Amazon in the US is the highest. That's where most new sellers sign up. But very close behind is India, then the Netherlands, which is surprising, and then the UK, then Canada, and so on. Germany is actually surprisingly low, only 7%, and that's a big marketplace. I think that's of the Western marketplaces, the third biggest. You've got US, UK, Germany. So that's also surprising here. And you can take a screenshot of this if it's something you want to keep. And if we look at the categories, so which are the categories sellers are selling most in? What do they choose to sell in? Home and kitchen is an outstanding choice here. You can see it's 40%. It really stands out from all of the rest. Then you have sports and outdoors, toys and games, and so on. Again, you can screenshot this if you wish. And then if we look at the rough success rate, I'm also waiting for new data on this one. I keep checking, but the closest we have is 2019. And if we look at the active sellers, that means they're actually selling something on Amazon. It's listed for sale. We have 1.1 million in 2019, and this would scale. But since we see less sellers signing up, because 2020 was a kind of peak almost, we could actually use this data with relative accuracy. So out of 1.1 million active sellers, you can see how many do 100,000 in sales revenue a year, 500,000 in sales revenue a year, and 1 million in sales revenue a year. And if we combine these three, we can deduce that about 21% of the active sellers make at least 100 grand in revenue per year or more. So it would indicate if you use 100 grand as a success rate, like that's a successful business or you're able to make a decent amount of income from that, then we would give it about a 21% success rate. But you also have to take that with a pinch of salt, because remember, that's active sellers. So this could be someone just doing resale, doing arbitrage, wholesale, like they could be selling anything. So take that with a pinch of salt. It's not out of 1.1 million most serious private label sellers placing, bigger unit orders and building a brand. However, I think it's an interesting insight and way to see this business. Now, if you do become a member, how we usually run these Q&As, we have a private Facebook group where you can ask questions every day. I aim to respond within 48 hours there. So I'll be checking that group, but you can also interact with a whole lot of other sellers who are often subscribers, and we share resources there and discuss topics. We also do these Q&As every single month, and the member questions are prioritized. So we're going to be doing those right now. I think you can learn a lot from those, by the way. And then each month we send out at least 3 high potential products, which you also get depending on the tier that you sign up for. So this is the more premium tier, but you can check it out at the link below in the description if it's interesting to you. I would love to have you guys join us in 2022. And thank you to every single one of you who are already a part of this. Your support has been incredible this year. So let's jump into these member questions here, and then I am going to jump straight back to you in the chat box and get to your questions. But Tim asked this in the group. He was saying he has failed a few times with this business, but did follow kind of what I taught in one of the videos and managed to start doing quite well here. And his questions were on scaling. So should I invest everything into this winning ASIN to make it the best product? Should I keep investing in the ASIN but start looking at variations? So extending the product line a bit off of that ASIN, and that can be added to the same listing. Or is there something else? He wants to scale quickly, but I don't know how to proceed. But it's a nice problem to have. Awesome. And thank you, Tim, very much for this message as well. This really means a lot to me that we're adding value and actually helping you take steps to success here. So on your question, I suggest a couple things here, and I just wrote it up on screen so you can screenshot it if you wish. And I know we did discuss this, but you were asking more for scaling answers. But I suggest you focus on the ASIN. The thing with this is problems always come up, like when you least expect them. So investing more in one thing that's working is going to give you more of a buffer. Instead of extending and going and paying for 3 other products, you have a bit of a buffer, and you can ensure this ASIN is going to be successful. Whether problems come up or some form of promotion is more expensive than you thought, or you have to adjust the product design, which is a bit more expensive, focus on the ASIN, put your capital towards this one, and really solidifying that product and its ranking. Also, avoid going too wide on the product line too early, because Tim, at this point, you have a successful ASIN, but when you reorder, you might find, wow, I have to reorder 5,000 units. Now, if you've widened the product line, in other words, added more products, you're not going to have the capital to do that. And you're not sure those other 2 or 3 products are going to sell well. You know this one sells well. So reinvest in this heavily. That would be my advice here. Also, scale your shipments. So if you ship just cartons, okay, your cardboard boxes of goods, that's going to be more expensive than shipping pallets, which is putting your cartons onto pallets. And if you ship containers, that is going to be cheaper than shipping just pallets, which are added to a container full of other people's shipments as well. So as you move up the shipment types, it gets a lot cheaper. And in fact, when you're filling a container like this, when you're filling this container about 60%, you are literally paying as much as buying the full container in most cases, which means if you bought the full container, you got another 40% for free, which you can ship product in. And therefore, it's cheaper per unit and you increase profits. So that's another reason. Focus on the ASIN. It's going to bring down the cost per unit and boost your profits. You want to really move to full container loads. That's where you're going to see the highest profitability. In terms of the variations part of your question, again, I would stick to my prior statement there. But if customers really, really want variations, like it's heavily favored by your product, it's asked for in the reviews. Maybe it's something where the color is very, very important. Then you could look at variations. But again, I would keep that product line narrow. So rather than launching 6 just to see which color works best, do a lot of research into which ones are competitors showing when they run their PPC ads, because that's likely the one that converts the best for them. So you're doing research like that. And look at listings where competitors don't put them as variations. So they have a red one here, blue one here, yellow one here, and which ones sell the best. And then I would choose based on that. But I would only do that around order number 3 or 4. So you can really scale this ASIN first by itself. And then another area which can become a problem is cash flow. So you know this product sells well and you feel confident on it, but you just don't have the capital to order, let's say, 10,000 units. Then I always look to scale in this way, add capital by my own hand. If I can't do that, then what I would suggest is payability. The reason is it doesn't work like loans. It's an advance payment. So they look at your sales and say, okay, you're making this many sales every single month. By June, you would have brought in X amount, and we're willing to give you an advance payment based on that with a little bit of a fee. So in this way, you're actually using your future earnings to gain the capital now to grow the business. But it's not like a loan. It's a little different. It's an advance payment based on your performance. So that's what I would recommend if you have to bring in additional capital, but always try to do this by your own hand first. Also, I'll drop a link to payability below. And if you do get funded with them, it will save you like $250, but that is there. And Mildred also asked, I want to create a skeleton listing. So this is an initial listing. It's not a beautifully built out listing with images and bullet points. It's just your initial listing to get it active and see if you can sell the product. If there's hazmat reviews, FDA documentation requests, anything like that. So Mildred's question is, if I add the skeleton listing to Amazon using a GS1 UPC or a GS1 EAN, a GS1 code, which is your product ID, if I use that, do I lose that GS1 code then? Can I never use it again if I delete the listing, or if I don't want to move forward with that product because I've used it? And the answer is probably. So you're likely going to lose the chance to reuse that GS1 code for a new listing. But you could probably, and I've done this, where you just adapt that listing that you already made on Amazon, you just adapt it for a new product type. But it's not the neatest way of doing it, and there can be like category problems. Let's say the replacement product you list is in a different category, that can cause some issues. So in terms of your question, when you're purely testing listings, like you just want to see, do I need to get ungated? Do I have a hazmat review? Is this a problem? Are there product restrictions? Then you can use the cheaper codes, not from GS1. So in those cases, you can use like speedy barcodes. They're much cheaper and often recycled codes, but you're really using them just to test, can I sell this product, and then deleting the listing. I'll also put a link to them below. And so Janya, how do we remove hijackers from the listing? I'm brand registered. I've sent a warning to the seller. Reporting the violation to Amazon looks complicated. So how do these hijackers get onto our listings, and how does it impact us? This is a very good question. So hijackers, they're going to jump onto your listing using this button most of the time. You can see below your buy box, you're going to have one to sell on Amazon. And this is where a hijacker will come and list on your listing. However, they have to do that in line with Amazon's TOS, which we'll touch on now. The other way is they could list the product as we usually do, just catalog, add a product, and then it will often bring up your listing and they'll select that. So that's another way they can do it from the add a product page. But then where do they get the inventory that they sell once they're on our listing? And they'll get this, either they're going to buy a similar product, like they could even go and buy like a similar product from a Target or a Walmart or something like that and sell under your listing. They could buy your product. Sometimes if you run a really heavy discount, or some people have a coupon code that goes wild, like there's something wrong with how they set it up, that's where they'll get your inventory. Or they may even go find a supplier and source your product and then sell it under your listing. So all are possible. Of course, the last one's the worst one because you don't want them to have a lot of inventory. If they're just selling 3 items they managed to get from you through a deal, that's better than if they have 500. But there are a couple steps you can take in order to deal with this. The first is to send a cease and desist to that seller. There are really good online templates as well. I've linked one below for you so you can check that out. But you're basically, as a customer, going to say, you're going to contact that seller from their storefront and say, I have like a problem with an order, but your reason is other. And you're going to send them a cease and desist explaining they're selling on your listing. Second, whether that works or not, I recommend you do a test buy. So you're buying their product. And if once you get it, you need to review that product. And if it is your product, then it's being sold as new, but it's actually being resold. So it should not be in new condition. It should be in used condition. So that's against Amazon's TOS. That's number one. Secondly, related to that one is they don't have rights to sell your brand. So that's also a conflict there. Second, if it is not your product, so it's actually a different product, then it does not match the product detail page on Amazon. And that's also against Amazon TOS. So you can also report them on those grounds. The key here is not just to report. You have to do it based on Amazon's grounds in line with their TOS. So you can see how this is strategized. It's to say, hey, this is misleading customers. The product doesn't match the product detail page. Or they're selling our brand, trademark, don't have rights to do that. And it shouldn't be listed as new because it's being resold and they're not the manufacturer. The most surefire way is you can also add a warranty to the bottom bullet point, say 100% money back warranty, and only a manufacturer can redeem a warranty. So in this way, you could collect your customers' email addresses, let's say at a landing page or something where they redeem your warranty from, let's say, your product insert. And if there are any problems, you will refund them because as sellers, we often refund them anyway. But this is something a hijacker couldn't do. Only the manufacturer could do. And Amazon will have a major problem with that because the hijacker can't fulfill what's promised on the listing. So you just have to think in these ways. So again, both are against Amazon TOS. So once you understand this, then you're going to report the infringement on those grounds to Amazon. And I'm also going to link the page for reporting this as well below the normal Seller Central one. There's also a page in Brand Registry for this. And David asked, I'm thinking of starting selling in the fashion niche. It has a 13% market share, and I found a very high quality US supplier with a lot of items that are currently not on Amazon. My question is, do you have FBA peers that have succeeded in this space and any other advice here? So this is a common one where you kind of have to go passion versus logic. And what I would say, David, the big thing here is you have a lot of big brands, and I would stay away from your mainstream clothing types, at least in the very beginning, because no one knows your brand. They have huge scale, the big brands. It's going to be hard to compete. However, where I would start, I just got a couple random ideas for you where you can still leverage your passion in the fashion area, but maybe a bit more strategically with lower competition. As you can see here, you could do things that are more accessories to the fashion area. And some sellers do quite well here. You can see 16 reviews, 400 sales. So you're going to see a much better relationship in terms of lower reviews, good sales numbers. But this is where I would start angling your research a little bit just to start off, and then you can make bigger decisions going forward. But I do hope that helps. I know that this becomes a fight between like passion and like logic and the data, which can be a tough thing to overcome. But I would start with something like this and then look at expanding perhaps more to clothing. Again, keeping it super niche though. Like you have to target a real segment of customers, something very unique with your brand. Teresa asked, I have a paperback journal with the small sales each day, but I have a hardback that's in production. So I've got two variations of this book in this case, but I'm going to answer this for all product types. So you have a variation of the main product. So can I use the same listing for both with different prices? Is it an easy addition? And how would I generate the different SKU number? Also, with the same PPC campaign, push both of them. So first, you can definitely sell both on the parent. I'm going to actually put a video below for you on this. I'm going to link quite a few related videos here. And the first thing you want to do if you're doing variations, find a competitor who sells both the, for example, paperback and hardback versions of a book, and check what their parent category is, because that parent category allows that variation relationship. See, that's what you're trying to find here. Then you want to create a parent listing in a category that allows that variation relationship, but you're not going to need a UPC, a GS1 code for the parent. Okay, so you just create the parent. Then you're going to fill in all the required tabs, but you don't have to input that UPC, and you don't have to insert anything into the offer tab yet. Then click variations at the top when you're creating this listing, and you choose your variation theme. So in this case, it's going to be probably style, and you're going to go, then you're going to name your variations. So paperback and hardback. Then you input a UPC for each variation. So these ones do need a UPC. And for the original, that already exists, your paperback one. So for that, you're going to insert that ASIN's UPC that already exists. Amazon's going to bring it up and say, hey, this exists. Do you want to add this one? You add it. And then you're going to add in a new UPC for your hardback. So for that version of the product, that one, you also add new UPC, and that's going to give you the SKU, but also FNSKU for the new version from that listing. So that's how that will work. In terms of the PPC here, it can work for both of them. It just works per SKU. So if you want the same campaign to push both variations, then you simply add both SKUs as targets to that same campaign. Okay, so it's an exact match campaign. It's already running for your paperback. Well, you're going to go in there and you're going to add the target, your hardback SKU as well. And it's going to push both of those on the front of the listing. But let's say hardback really converts better, gets more clicks, and you only want that to show on PPC ads, then you're only going to add that SKU to PPC campaigns. It's going to push your listing, but only showing that SKU at the front when it's an ad. And once people click on it, they will obviously see both options. Now, Nikki had a related bonus question here is, what if you upgrade an existing product? So you're selling a product now, but you change it in some way. Do you have to make a brand new listing and relist the product? I've actually had to do this a few times. So I can definitely answer this with a bit of confidence that you don't need a new listing, so long as the fundamental product is not different. The key here is you have to time your orders. So let's say now you're selling your product and you have 100 units left. Your new order with the improvement to the product is on the way to the warehouse. What you need to try and do is only update the listing, the digital listing on Amazon. Only update that when the transition has happened from the old to the new inventory. Because this way you avoid customers getting upset because you're advertising this new wonderful version with the new edition and they get the old one. So you can see, you just have to time the transition on those orders. That's the key with it. As long as it's not a fundamental change to the main product, like a really big difference, you can definitely use the same listing. And Sarush, and Merry Christmas to you as well. 2 questions. My product's about 3.5 ounces, but the Amazon listing shows 9.14 ounces. I've already shipped it to FBA before, and I bet they're charging me based on that weight, the bigger one. I'm guessing they are adding packaging weight to my product's weight. If so, does 9.14 sound correct? Or should I calculate my FBA fee based on 3.5 and contact them for a refund? So this is a really good question. And I'm very happy you asked this because I actually didn't realize they changed this. Packaging weight is no longer a thing, it appears. So, and I want to touch on this so everyone's aware because this is a really big deal. A lot of people skip over the fees because it looks boring, and I know it looks boring. But once you understand it once, you've got it. So just stick with me on this. From what I can deduce here, if your product's under 0.75 pounds, you simply round up to the nearest whole ounce. Okay? So, and in fact, let me start with the table here. So you have your size tier, and we're all quite familiar with these. You've got standard size, oversize, special oversize. A lot of us are in the standard size area, but you could go above. Now, if your product is 0.75 pounds, so it's quite lightweight or less, then you don't have to worry about dimensional weight at all. Okay, it's only based on your unit weight. But if it's more than 0.75, which it often is, then you have to calculate both your unit weight and dimensional weight. And I'll touch on those in a moment. So in short here, if your product's less than 1 pound, you're going to round up to the nearest whole ounce. If it's a pound or over, you're going to round up to the nearest whole pound. Okay, so that's the key with all of these. And if it's less than 0.75, you don't need to worry about dimensional weight. Okay, so under 0.75, you simply round up to the nearest whole ounce. That gives you your shipping weight and you can work out your FBA fee. Really simple. But if it's over 0.75 pounds, then you need to calculate the unit weight. Okay, this is when you just put your product on a scale and it's 1.2 pounds. Cool. You also need to calculate the dimensional weight. So that is your length times width times height. Okay, length, width, height, big number divided by 139. And then whichever of those two are bigger, the one on the scale or the dimensional weight, that's the one Amazon chooses. And you then take that number and you round up to the nearest whole pound. And that gives you your shipping weight. So I hope that makes sense. There's no more addition of this little packaging weight, which was really confusing. You simply round up. And these are the other details if your product's under 7.75 or over 0.75. So here's an example. You can see, let's say you sell a 3-pack of glass jars. That's what you sell. The unit weight, this is when we put the jars on a scale, is 6.6 pounds. But when we do dimensional weight, length, width, height, big number divided by 139, then we get 12.2 pounds. So what is the shipping weight going to be? Well, Amazon's going to choose the bigger one, and they're going to round up to the nearest whole pound. They do not round down. So of course it's going to be 13 pounds. This is the bigger one. So that's how this works. I hope this helps make sense. Once you know this number, say it's 13 pounds, then, sorry, this is jumping here. Then you can work out your exact FBA fee using the fee schedule. So you can see here 6 ounces or less, 6 to 12 ounces, etc. Now, Sarush, in your example, your product is 3.5 ounces. That is your unit weight. Now, because it is very lightweight, it's under 0.75 pounds, you don't have to worry about dimensional weight, as we touched on. You round up to the nearest whole ounce, which is 4 ounces. And that means your FBA fee is 6 ounces or less. So it should be $2.70 from what I can tell. And Bobby, currently, what is the standard shipping rate per kilo, sea versus air? So I did some digging on this because obviously shipment sizes impact this heavily and it's astronomical at the moment. But air freight, China to the US West Coast, is about $4 to $8 per kilo. Ocean freight, on average, China to the US West Coast, is $2 to $4 per kilo. So it costs, if we look at containers, let's look at a 20-foot container just as a reference. It costs about $10,000 to ship a 20-foot from China to the US. And the max you could load is about 25,000 tons or 25 tons, so 25,400 kgs. So $10,000 divided by that number gives us $0.4 per kilo. Okay, so like 50 cents per kilo by ocean if it's an optimal 20-foot container, like perfectly packed. So by ocean in general, you can expect between $1 and $4 per kilo. And now we're going to do open Q&A. So let me jump back to you guys there. And I just need to stop sharing here. Stop screen. There we go. Let me stand here so that little thing is not in the way. Perfect. And I hope that all makes sense. Please feel free to drop any questions you have in the chat box. And we're going to jump straight into your questions here. And hello, everyone else who's joined. Wayne, Malik, Abdullah, Ritesh, Varney, and David is here. Thank you for your question. Agnes, Dennis, and Jay is here. Jay Rogers, does all of our editing and helped me a lot in moving the studio quickly here today. And Mac, question Dan. Okay, where is it, Mac? Okay, so Console asked how to ship our inventory on a low price, so low cost. So the key here is moving up the shipment types. So Console, you want to move from doing, just your cartons, which are just like cardboard boxes, move up to doing pallets, and then specifically, if you can, move up to doing a full container load. That's going to be the cheapest by far because you're actually filling up that whole container and you're going to pay the least amount. Also, it reduces a lot of risk because the container doesn't need to be configured with all the other people's shipments. It doesn't need to be opened and reclosed multiple times at customs to clear each person's shipment or business's shipment. So there are additional benefits there, including the time of not having to do that. Definitely sea though. I know that ocean has slid a little closer because of the big container shortages, but it's still, ocean is much, much cheaper. Of course, another option is source locally, because then you don't have the big shipment, which can definitely be an option in some cases. Just do a cost analysis between the two. And sometimes it's actually a lot cheaper. Plus you have the additional made in US branding or made in UK branding. And Mohammed, how many reviews should be considered when selecting competitors? So what I like to do is I'm not going to, so I'll answer this from two perspectives. I like to look for markets where I see listings selling very, very well with less than 100 reviews. When it's in that 2-digit phase of reviews, like 31 reviews, 52 reviews, it doesn't carry the same weight as something with 300 reviews or even 900 reviews. So that's what I'm looking for, because I'm simply looking that customers accept lower reviews, that they will buy from someone with lower reviews based on product design. They're not only making the decision based on trust from prior reviews. So that's what I'm really looking at, is less than 100 reviews. So a good metric to use is on page 1, do you have 3 or more sellers, okay, 3 of them, they are each selling more than 500 sales a month, okay, that would make it worthwhile for you, but they also have less than 100 reviews each. That's a really good sign. So that's the type of thing I'm looking for. In terms of selecting your competitors, I wouldn't do that so much based on reviews. If you see what I'm saying, I would look at the markets based on reviews. And your competitors, I would choose those based on the ones which are, number one, selling the best, because you want to go with the options customers favor the most. And secondly, which match your envisioned product design most closely. That's who people are going to be comparing you to as they make the purchase decision. And hello, Dean, Remy, Hassan. Okay, this is a good one. So Priyanka asks how to prevent competitors from stealing your product images. And this is a painful one. It's been around for a very long time. So the biggest thing you can really do, Priyanka, is actually send cease and desist letters. So that's what I would recommend here. Is I've actually linked one below, but you could morph that into being for listing images based on copyright. Okay, so you use copyright as your grounds. That any unique work of authorship gains a natural copyright upon creation. Now you're the author of your product images, so naturally they have copyright. Someone else should not just take them and reuse them, particularly commercially. So that's what I would do in this case, Priyanka. It doesn't always work, but it's something you can do for sure. This is also an offense that Amazon allows you to report, by the way. So you can also report it to them because you do have copyrights, natural copyrights at least, in terms of this. So again, you could use the link below to report infringement as a second step here. Okay, so and Mac was saying, let's see here, that in the past few months, I have noticed a lot of YouTube FBA sellers that are selling and getting out nothing that the space is 100% changed and therefore the opportunities are no longer there. So there's definitely been a change in FBA excitement, as I was saying in the beginning, over the past year or so. And I can't attribute it to one thing. I think it's the shipping. I think it's multiple new platforms. And I think it's also, as we've seen almost in the job environment, what they're calling the great resignation, which I'm sure you've all seen. And I'm not sure if that has also filtered into the starting your own business space. So it's definitely changed. I have to agree with you there, Mac. But in terms of no opportunities, I would tend to disagree on that, as we covered in the very beginning of this, is some of the stats. And Amazon is still continuing its trajectory up, but we have far few newer sellers, which I would agree with. It's definitely different to prior years. But in my opinion, it actually shows more opportunity than before. Like if you're selling when all even people who do FBA on YouTube's going like crazy and there's so many new sellers, that's a worse time. So that's what I would say on that. But that is an insight I would agree with in terms of it changing. Okay. So yes, I would say it's still a good area to start a business, Mac, your second question here. In terms of it's really hard. We saw there like the success rate really roughly, because we can't get everything, but it's like 21%. So like any business, it's really tough to do. But for those who stick it out, I think it's one of the best models in terms of simplicity. Like you don't have to rank your own website and advertise your own website. All the shoppers are there and there's already trust from Amazon. So yes, I do think it's a good option if your skill set, your strengths are in line with that type of business. And Wayne asks, how can I sell a good notebook? So you would benefit from Teresa's conversations in the Facebook group for sure. I do know, and I'm not experienced with this, but I do know there's Kindle publishing on Amazon as well, but I'm not well versed in that enough to share here. So I would definitely look into that Kindle publishing on Amazon though. Awesome. And Wayne, you already created your notebook, so definitely check that out. So Ritesh asks this, how to identify, and you put all the data here, how to identify the customer favorite for this. So sales 575, reviews 15. That's really good. Sales 1700, reviews 54. That's amazing. What market is this? These are all good. These are all good except the second last one, which is okay. Yeah. Those are all amazing. So, I mean, I would definitely be looking at that 1700 sales with per month at 54 reviews. That's really fantastic. And also the last one here, 795 sales a month at 60 reviews. It's fantastic. But I can only tell so much from the numbers. So you also want to look, what's the product design? What's happening there? So I'd look at those top two. And also let's look at the first one as well. Make that your third. 575 sales, 15 reviews. Look at those three. What's different about them to the others? And then I'd start looking a bit at product design as well. But those are the three I would look at. If I had to choose one, be the 1700 sale one there. Cool question. And here's another one. So Mubasha asks, hi, I hope you're fine. And you, Mubasha. So can brand registry help in hijackers removal? Yes, it gives you an additional way to report these infringements, even an automated way for Amazon to check for infringements of your brand specifically. So it wouldn't check specifically for hijackers unless they're using your brand. However, it will definitely help with that. It gives you more control over your listing. And of course, Amazon, it gives you two options to Amazon to sort these issues out. Of course, you need a registered trademark, which would also give you that legal backing outside of Amazon. And secondly, can we use GS1 codes for our current GTIN exempted listing without losing reviews or sales? Mubasha, I don't know. I don't know. That's the truth. I don't want to give you the wrong info on this one for GTIN exemption, because I don't use that. I always get it. I always use GS1 GTINs, because let's say you ever go into retail. If you have GTIN exempted listings on Amazon, the product globally can't be tracked. So let's say you have it selling in a specific retail store. Let's say it's selling in like Target and on Amazon. It can't have the same GTIN because the Amazon one's GTIN exempted. So that's the benefit of GTINs. However, I know a lot have used this. I just cannot answer this with confidence because I've never done that specific thing. But that's a really good question. I'm going to look into that. And coding's creativity, how to contact you. So you are welcome to use the email in the about section of the channel for any business inquiries that you do have. I will also drop a link below though for everything I do offer. I don't currently do like one-on-one coaching or anything like that though. However, I do have certain certain apps and services I work with. One is Wizio, which is awesome. You can send me your question and I'll send you a dedicated video response. But whatever you want to talk about, you can also email me on the about email on the channel. But I will link below. There's a link that says like everything I offer, and you can see all the stuff there. And Semar, the same. And Andrew, it's funny you asked this. So that's exactly the difference. So GTIN exemption seems good, and it is good because you don't have to pay for a GS1, but paying for GS1 codes are actually really cost efficient now, because you can buy, like, I remember when you had to buy, I think you had to buy like 100 of them and there was no other option. Now you can buy one code if you need one code. And forgive me if this is wrong, but I think it's like $30 for a code. Someone can probably drop it here, but it's much easier to purchase them. So the GTIN exemption is less beneficial now, I would say. The difference is GTIN exemption, yes, you forego that cost and you can just list on Amazon. But if you ever go in retail or sell your product elsewhere, you can't have your product be identified globally by one code everywhere in the world. And that is your GTIN, no matter where it sells. That's why if you go buy a product in any retail store, you'll see that barcode on it. That's because it's being sold in your country, and then also Germany and Sweden and online, but it's all with that one code. So that's the real benefit of it. And there are other benefits Amazon will work in to the GTIN code in terms of being able to cross-list. So you can list it in the US, get all your reviews, but then you can cross-list into Europe and pull those reviews more easily because it has this one GTIN, Global Trade Identification Number. And that's something I think they're already using now. So it's going to benefit those who are looking for expansion in the end. And below, do we need special customs documents or a process to import electronic goods? The major one Not necessary, not often, not often. You can generally import electronics without problem. The supplier or manufacturer, including the freight forwarder, just need to make sure those goods are packaged correctly, and that's what you pay them for. So the biggest issues are generally going to be things like certain lithium ion batteries, stuff like that need to be protected properly. But this is really a big task of your manufacturer because they're an exporter. So they have to abide by those regulations for it to even leave the ports. Generally, it's going to be the same standards on the other side, the destination port. So not generally. However, your manufacturer will be able to tell you more. Another example is like magnets, magnetic products. Magnets have to be shipped with this little steel, it's like these little steel plates around the magnet. So it can't magnetize to, like other stuff or the vehicle it's being transported on. But generally, no, it's not like you have to go through some massive process. Your manufacturer will be able to tell you more. And this is a good one as well. Hi, Dan, can't we edit the title again? Yes, but it's a tricky one. So because I've had this happen before where I go to try change the title and then it will say, hey, when multiple sellers sell on a listing, you can't change the title. We choose what's represented. And the primary time this will happen to you when you cannot change it, even if you have a returned product that comes back and it's fulfillable, and let's say Amazon warehouse grabs it and sells it under your listing, which you've probably seen, and that's totally fine. That is another offer on your listing. It's going to keep your listing open, even if you try close the listing, but also it counts as an additional seller. So now you have two sellers on the listing. You don't have a hijacker, but you have two offers on for sale on the listing. So just keep that in mind. If you have returns or products just sitting there, consider liquidating, fulfillable returns if that's a major problem at the time you're trying to change the title. But it's just something to keep in mind. There are other rare cases where Amazon doesn't want you to change the title, but generally you can. The best practice, in my opinion, is try to do it as little as possible. So try get it right from the beginning. If you really need to change it, make sure you have every single change you can think of ready. Change it once. That's what I would recommend. But generally, yes, you can. Okay, good question. So I have a question about PPC. Can we use a different image on every new campaign, or the front image of our product is always the one for ads? So you cannot choose a different image. It's always going to be the front image. It's always going to be the main image of the SKU you are targeting for the ad. And Tamara, thank you for all of your support. I think, Tamara, you have been a member for like 10 months. I'll be able to see your little icon in on YouTube itself. What to do if Amazon is keeping... I'm going to say, hold on one second. Okay, so I'm going to guess here because I don't understand the first part, but I think what you're saying, I don't know if you're saying they're keeping it closed or they're not allowing you to close it. So just let me know. Just let me know which of those, Tamara, like the details. Are they keeping it closed or not allowing you to close it? And Hicham, hello, can you please explain how to close all other accounts automatically linked to my unified account? Because I'm just starting to sell in the USA only. So Hicham, what you can do is the best page for this. I haven't unlinked specifically, but I would go into Amazon Seller Central. I believe it's the first menu item. Click sell globally. So I think it's inventory, sell globally. That is your dashboard for any linked accounts where you can unlink accounts and link accounts. If you can't do it manually from there, then contact Amazon and ask them to unlink those from your unified account. And then you'll have single logon just to North America. And Moto, I will run out of stock tomorrow, but new inventory should come in a day after tomorrow. Should I reduce PPC spend to not run out, or is it okay to just run out and maximize sales? Moto, my strategy, do not stop anything, change anything. I see a lot of people, they start raising their price, slowing down PPC. My strategy on this is I keep everything running as it is. I want maximum sales velocity. And then as soon as it runs out, I go edit, close listing. Don't delete it, just edit, close listing. Just makes it inactive as soon as you run out. In this way, when the stock comes back in, and remember that Amazon has to process the inventory in as well, which might take a bit of time until you have 30 or 50 units there where you can open the listing. So, or where I would recommend opening it again. So at that time you relist. So where editors, you'll just see relist, and Amazon remembers your sales velocity from before. So you don't want to slow it down. And when they remember that sales velocity, it helps you get back to where you were ranking originally. So that's always my strategy, and do with it what you will. But I used to do that. I'm much more for this strategy now. And Priyanka, hi Dan, do you have any recommendations for good freight forwarders or shipping agents? Yes, definitely. Priyanka, what I will do is I will link those below this video afterwards for you. That's just a lot easier. But I will link like the major ones, like the most prestigious ones, and then also some FBA specific ones. So you can look at them, such as Co-Shipper, CO Shipper. And Huam, hope I got this one right. Huam, what do you think of Amazon GL or Global Logistics? So Amazon Global Logistics, I think, it's a good program. What this does, Priyanka, by the way, is it will replace your freight forwarder. So Amazon will actually do the shipping part of the process for you as well. The benefits are that you have great tracking. So if you're someone who really stresses out about not getting your tracking numbers, Sarush, then this might be an option for you because it's done by Amazon. So they're able to, track your shipments on the way to fulfillment centers. This is only done from China to the US and China to Europe, only on those routes, by the way. So it's definitely something you can look into. This is under fulfillment programs in Seller Central. So I can't remember the initial menu, but it's under fulfillment programs. Could be programs, fulfillment programs in Seller Central. Or just search for Global Logistics. This is a great question. So Malik, which Amazon market is better for 2022 as a new seller? So Malik, it's funny. I was actually speaking to my brother about this. Is like, why don't we do a video on this and we get all our stats like we did at the beginning of this, and we actually look at which markets are the best to start on based on competition and volume, how much sales are generated there, and how many competitors can you expect. So it's definitely a video we will do. What I would personally say, but again, everyone's different. For me, I still see the US as number one. I still think it's the best. The reason being is developing a product's hard. You guys know this. It takes so much work. I mean, when I designed some of the products, I spent 2 months designing with the manufacturer. That's a very long time. So you need significant sales volume for that to pay off, for that risk reward, for that opportunity cost. For that reason, I think the US is the best still, because the sales volumes are high. You saw there, we had a really cool question. Ritesh posted here on the sales reviews. I know that's from the US market. Those are US sales numbers, where you've got he's got 10 competitors doing over 500 sales, or at least over 300 sales, who have less than 100 reviews. That's magic. So for that reason, that's my personal favorite still. Okay, and where were we? And here, P. Giri, how can I send a private issue to you? So check out the links below. There's one which says everything I offer, and you can check it out there. There are some options and ways. Perhaps Wizio would be a cool thing if it's about e-commerce or investing or something. Okay, we went over this one. And Amazon Learner, perfect place. So can you please tell me some PPC strategies for the UAE market? So I don't sell in UAE, so I can't speak to a niche strategy there, but I will link my 2 videos below on PPC. They're probably our most popular videos, so people really enjoy it, and the same strategy can be applied in any market. The cool thing with UAE is you can have way less ad spend. That I would say is the biggest downside to the US market, is the insane ad spend. But it's got the sales volume. Okay, I think I missed half that question, Nicole. I see this. I can't find the other half. But it looks like someone mapped their brand onto your ASIN. So, Nicole, I'm not sure. That sounds really complex. The best thing is get brand registered in future. I know that's not really helpful, but that should really help you because you own that brand. And it looks, I'm not sure how anyone could do that, but you'll have to ask Amazon specifically for this. And I would do a phone call. Don't email them, do a phone call until you get someone good. You will find someone good who can really help you sort this out. Trademarked, well, they're doing it under their brand name. That's very strange. Hopefully it didn't have a lot of reviews. Then I would just relist your version and just compete hard there. And Fida, what is a preferred price tag to sell your product this year, considering the supply chain issues? Great question. Higher. So each year it feels like we have to go higher. And this year, it's not only because of strategy, but also inflation. Like, as sellers this year, we've taken the brunt of the shipping issues. We haven't been able to raise our price $5, $10 on every product, yet our shipping costs have gone up astronomically. So naturally, inflation is picking up now, where we have to charge more in order to stay in business. That's why we do this. So it's starting to gain its balance again. It was really off its equilibrium. So that's what's going to happen. I would say, Fida, I would aim for above $35 this year. I'm even tempted to say above 40 as your target. So remember, you could start at 30 but move up to 40. You could start at 35 and move up to 50 over time. But that's what I'd recommend. You're really going to absorb those FBA fees, shipping fees much more easily. And Anthony, this is a good question too. Does changing your product category during launch affect sales rank or organic search terms? So this is not going to affect your search terms at all, because regardless of the category it's in, it's the search terms. So it's not going to impact that. However, with a category change, it can be quite difficult to get Amazon to do this. You will have to contact them, and they will only sometimes do it. I've had them do it successfully. You can often do it through brand registry if you are brand registered. If not, you can try with normal seller support. However, it's hit and miss, so it's not always a guarantee they will change the category, just so you know that. You might want to plan like a backup strategy if they won't change it. However, I hope that they will change it if you need to really change the category. So in terms of rank and organic search terms, generally not, because you have the same keywords regardless of category, and should be able to rank just as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but I would definitely, as you do that category change, I would really be aggressive with PPC ads to make sure your offer is as visible as possible to keep that traction going. And if it's a new product, I would do the change as soon as possible, just in case you do have to re-rank on some pages. Just do it really early. Yamani, can I create multiple seller accounts using the same account holder name, phone number, bank account, or do you recommend to change these? So Yamani, the big thing I would say is be careful of this, and do you need this would be my other question, because Amazon does watch for this, and they watch in two ways. They use your internet IP, and they use even MAC IPs sometimes. So like your machine's IP. They don't want anyone to have more than one seller account for a specific marketplace. In other words, you can definitely have an account in Europe, account in North America, account in Singapore. You can do that for sure, but they don't want you to have two US accounts. But there's two ways to go about it if you do need to do it. Number one is you can contact Amazon and say, I run two different businesses. Here are my LLCs or my limited companies, and I have a genuine need for two seller accounts to sell my two brands on Amazon, and they'll grant you that access. The other way to do it is not to contact Amazon, and you use definitely a different email address. As many of these details you've listed here need to be different. They need to be different, so Amazon doesn't see the connection. That's the key. And some people go as far as to use different laptops and different internet connections. But I'll warn you, that gets really complex, and you're going to likely make a mistake and log into the wrong one on the wrong, so it gets pretty hairy. However, I do think it's a little overhyped, the risk, because, and I take no responsibility for multiple accounts here, but as sellers, we all go to the same summits and conferences, and we're all logging into Seller Central on this IP address, and maybe it's different. I'm not sure how hotel Wi-Fi and stuff works, but it just struck me that if you have like 100 sellers in one location and nothing happens based on the connection, because that was another thing people said, is if another seller comes to my office, logs into their account, they're going to think I have 2 seller accounts. So that's why I just got thinking about the conferences and summits and how there's no negative consequence there. Yamani, my biggest advice is make sure you need multiple. And secondly, contacting Amazon is likely more safe. And Samad, I see your question here. I don't specifically do wholesale. So I stick to private label. That's my thing. But I'll see if I can link any wholesale creators below. And Abdullah, really hard question. What should the general PPC budget in the UK be for a £13 product in home and kitchen? Very difficult to say. However, PPC in the UK is so much easier than the US. You have far less competition. So, I mean, you could probably successfully run that at like, I don't know, maybe even £20 a day. That's maybe even quite, I think you could, in the UK, it's far less competitive. But I don't even know how competitive it is. But just throwing a number out there. Why am I seeing the same ones here? Are you guys spamming the chat? Okay, this is a great question. So, Abdul Rahman, and thank you for all your support this year. Hey, Dan, do you think we as sellers can do anything to at least stop the shipping crisis? I'm thinking of donations because we are under the same roof to give the best deals for our customers. So, in terms of the shipping crisis, I want to deal with the first part here. Yes, like we can, and it's going to happen naturally. And what will happen is some sellers will stop selling. That's what they'll do because no, it's too hard, can't be profitable. The other sellers are going to go, okay, I'll do this, but there's now less supply and I need to be profitable. So I'm going to raise my prices. Otherwise, why do it? And that's what's going to happen. So the prices are going to go way up. And so the customers have to bear it. And then everything will come back to an equilibrium. Either we stay there, we're profitable, but customers have to pay more because of the shipping costs. Or somehow that will weave its way back to the shipping companies where that has to change. So who knows? I mean, it could get all... there's a lot to it. But yes, in terms of our price strategy, we can collectively, along with all other businesses, perhaps make a bit of a dent there where things have to change, or this is the new, yes, inflation is real, or, you know, these prices have gone up because of these issues. I think that would also bring around stricter regulation on the shipping, because I think in some cases, and I really am not an expert on it, I don't know enough, but I think there's in some places, some heavy profiteering. And I think it would bring about higher regulation, which would ease the shipping costs and everyone's business's ability to make profit and lower prices for customers. But until that happens, one of those three really, we have to wait. I do think by the middle of this year, the shipping costs will subside to somewhere closer to normal. And thank you, Priyanka. And Rami, on this one, what I was just saying is just things have shifted to feeling like less competitive than the prior years. But if you watch the very beginning of this session, it will make a bit more sense. We went over like the stats around this. And Remy, how many more we got? Wow, we got a few. So your product, you're waiting for your product for a few months, it's stuck in Vancouver, or your supplier tells you that, but you're not sure if he's telling the truth. What do you do in this position? So Remy, the first question I'd have is, do you have logistics insurance? Because that's going to cover your products no matter what happens. That's a good thing to have. Secondly is tracking numbers. That's going to tell you where the shipment actually is. So you actually need the freight forwarder, not supplier, but the freight forwarder to give you the tracking so you can make sure. Abdullah, your shipment's 360 kgs. Is that eligible for? I have no clue because it's not based only on weight. It's on volume and everything. This is a question for your supplier. How many units fill a 20-foot? How many units fill a 40-foot? And then you can work it out based on that, how much you order from them. And Simar, how to find a good supplier? What is the best payment method? I'm going to guess on this one. So finding a supplier, it depends. So if you are really changing a product, you're doing new design aspects, if there's a lot in that way, go with a manufacturer rather than a trading company. It's going to be more cost efficient and you're going to be able to make more changes more easily. That's the first thing, trading company, manufacturer. And they are listed on Alibaba as their business type. Secondly, only use a supplier with trade assurance because that's going to allow you to pay the supplier with trade assurance, which in my opinion is the best way to pay a supplier, particularly on the first few orders, because it gives you a lot of backing. And you can even write up the trade assurance contract yourself on Alibaba. But those are the primary things. What is the difference between UPC and GTIN? So a GTIN is a global trade identification number. It's like the parent, okay? It holds everything. And then in the US, a version of the GTIN is called a UPC. And in Europe, a version of a GTIN is called EAN, a European article number, whereas a UPC is a universal product code. So UPC, EAN, those are all things. They are just types of GTINs. All of those are GTINs. Agnes, the second part of the question here is, what if I expand if I'm using GTIN exemption, as we covered earlier? So I don't think it's going to be a major problem, Agnes. It's only when you really, like, your brand starts to expand quite heavily, where like your supply chain needs to track where the product is, and you have a whole stocking system, and it's like, the GTIN's critical to tracking where everything is. At that point, it's going to be important. What I would do, as I said, I've never switched from GTIN exemption to a GTIN. So what I would do is contact Amazon on this and ask them, what should I do? They're going to be the best source of advice on that specific thing. But if anyone else has done it, please do comment here. Why we should choose a $35 product or above. So hack, there are certain costs you will incur. So let's say your product is like, this is a really bad example, but let's say like your product's like this size, okay? And when you send it into FBA is going to, every time someone buys from your listing, FBA is going to go into the warehouse, pick this, pack this, ship it out to the customer. You don't have to do anything. But for that, they charge you a FBA fee. Let's say for this size of product, it's $4.95. Let's just say it's $5. Then if you sell this product for $20, that $5 is like a much bigger piece of the pie than if you're selling for $40. where it's a way smaller piece of the pie, and that leaves you with more profit. But in the same way, international shipping for this size of product in, like, let's say 500 volume, it's still based on volume and size. So again, let's say that's like $2 per unit when you work it out. Again, it's like a fixed cost based on size, not price. And so with a higher price, you're leveraging those fixed costs, which don't change, if that makes sense. And it leaves you with more profit. Also, those worried about competition, well, where do a lot of new sellers start? They start at the 2025 because it's cheaper. The product cost is also cheaper. And so at the higher price levels, you also have less competition. Okay, and I can only take a few more here, guys. But let me see here. And Tamra, I've looked over that. I still don't understand fully. MD, on this one, which category should you choose for FBA product? We literally did an awesome video on this, and I'll even say it's awesome, last week. So please check the most recent video on the channel. We literally went over this exact thing for listing your product. It's part 1 of listing your product, where we literally go into how to choose the absolute best category for your product. And tomorrow, I'll give you guys a sneak peek, but tomorrow we will be coming out with part 2 on that, which is going to take you step by step exactly how to list your product as well. So stay tuned for that one. Okay. I'm just trying to find a mixed bag here for time. And Remy, is it possible to successfully launch a product without using black hat tactics? 100%. 100%. In fact, my favorite launch tactic is PPC. Literally the PPC strategy I shared with you guys, part 1 and part 2 on the channel. I'll link it below as well. I'll link it after this if it's not already there. But that is literally still my favorite launch strategy. Works very, very well. Secondarily, another thing I'm going to be talking about very soon is influencers. I think we underuse and underrate the use of influencer marketing. I hate the term influencer, but it's a great way for you to get in front of a targeted audience. That's the key. So we're going to be touching more on that as well, and that's not black hat either. Then you got Amazon Vine. So definitely. Good question. Ritesh, is UPC barcode printing, remember that's your GTIN, is that required on each box of a product for FBA? No. If you're doing FBA, there are 2 options. When you list the product, you will see, and even in the shipping plan, you will see, you can choose Amazon barcode or manufacturer barcode. Amazon barcode is what you're likely going to choose most. That is your FNSKU. That means every unit has an FNSKU on it. If you choose manufacturer barcode, that is a GTIN, like a UPC or EAN. And that's what's printed on the product. My advice is to always choose Amazon barcode and use the FNSKU. But it is up to you. Just be very careful of having multiple barcodes on a product. Amazon does not like that. They want you to cover existing codes with their one code, whether that's FNSKU or GTIN. I highly recommend you do the FNSKUs, but it is up to you on that. That's just what I do. And Zayed, thank you. Appreciate that. Brand advertising. We actually did a video on this like 3 weeks ago, specifically on sponsored display and sponsored brands advertising, those two type. It was advanced PPC part 1. I will also link it below. And sorry, I know I'm directing to those videos in some cases, but there's so much on this. Like it's really, there's not enough time to talk about it. There's so many options. So that video is probably the best place to start. One tip out of it is you can do sponsored display and then use audiences. And that will actually allow you to run ads on Amazon, but also off of Amazon. So if people are like, and you've probably seen this, you could be scrolling like Yahoo Finance or some other website, and like an Amazon ad comes up, an Amazon product you've been looking at on Amazon, that's sponsored display audiences. So also incredibly powerful. And the targeting is almost like creepy. You can target like people who just got married, and like it's heavy targeting. And Z, 100 a day in the US is nothing. So I think you mean PPC, and that is true. And that's why I say in the UK, you might even get away with something like £20 a day. It's just, that's the difference. So, but the volume's higher in the US. PPC has gone up drastically in the past 12 months, I would say. Cool. Max says, as a Canadian seller but wanting to sell in the US, what are your thoughts on TransferWise? Would Amazon pay into my US TransferWise account, or does it need a real bank account? Trying to avoid fees. Love it. I love these things. I love it. So I've used Payoneer. I've used WorldFirst. I don't think I've actually used TransferWise, but I know exactly what they do. Mac, if available, see if you can use WorldFirst. Like if you're someone like me who really looks at exchange rates and really does not appreciate the bank's exchange rate, then look at WorldFirst. I think TransferWise is almost as good, but WorldFirst has been phenomenal, honestly. They're one of the best services I've ever used. And basically, for those who aren't aware of this, so let's say you want to sell, just as another, let's say you're in Canada like Mac and you want to sell in the US. You want to get, obviously you're going to receive US dollars, but you in your home country have Canadian dollars, or you might have pounds or euros. What is the best way for you to receive those US dollars and get the most Canadian dollars or pounds or euros out of those US dollars? You see the thing there. So that is what Mac is talking about. And you can insert something in the middle, like TransferWise or Payoneer or WorldFirst. So Amazon pays that, thinking it's your bank account, and it's all totally legal. And then from this thing, this online account, TransferWise, Payoneer, WorldFirst, you can actually target exchange rates or wait until the exchange rate's good, and you can get more Canadian dollars from those US dollars or euros or pounds. So that is what Mac is referring to here. As well as if Mac puts his Canadian bank account direct with Amazon, Amazon's probably going to charge him fees for, we have to change it to Canadian dollars, which is, just a digital change of a symbol, but we're going to charge you $300 for that. So I'm totally with you on that, Mac. I highly recommend it. WorldFirst is my number one, just because I've used it. I've heard amazing things on TransferWise. I would contact TransferWise and check with them. But how it works with WorldFirst, Amazon is none the wiser. They have no idea it's not your real bank account, because when you apply and set up on WorldFirst, TransferWise, Payoneer, you have to apply with your real business details. So you actually own an account, let's say in New York, under your business's name. It's online, but it is a real account. So when you put that onto Amazon, Amazon doesn't see TransferWise anywhere. They don't know the difference. So there should not be a problem. At least that's how it works with WorldFirst and Payoneer. So I'm sure it's the same with TransferWise, but love it. Really good. Keep your money. Okay, so how po chu. My product main keywords are having a low search volume. If I change my product title using new keywords, which are higher search volume, will my ranking for the new keywords be pushed to far away pages or down the results? Yes, because now you need to rank and make sales on those keywords. But how? The key here is if you already have those keywords on your listing, you might already be showing up on the results pages. It might not be in your title, but you have them somewhere else. If that's the case, you might already be ranking for those keywords and making sales for them. So then you wouldn't see a drastic change. But if these are brand new keywords you have nowhere on the listing, then yes, you're not going to be ranking as well for those in the beginning. How it works is, let's say your keyword is, let's just say it's black remote control, okay? If someone types that in, finds your listing and buys your product, the more they do that, the higher your product goes on those results. That's how it works. It's that simple. So if you don't have that keyword on your listing, you're not going to rank for it. People aren't going to find your listing when they search that. And of course, then you need to be found and make more sales for it. And humor, no voice. Is anyone else here having an issue? Can you guys hear me fine? I just want to make sure. Just drop me a thumbs up in the chat, please. There's a massive storm here. Just want to make sure. Thank you, Priyanka. Appreciate. And humor, I think it will just be on your side. Just check your connections. And you can't hear me. So how can I know? Okay. How can I know if a product has a trademark on it? And if it does, can I change the design slightly without getting in trouble? Now, this is talking about two different things, your money. You have trademarks. Now, a trademark protects a brand name, okay? So let's say this thing is my brand name, how to sell on Amazon. Let's just say that's my brand name. I can trademark that name. It's a word mark. That's what they call it, a word mark. So I have protection over that name, that brand name. That's a trademark, and I can put that on my products. People know it's my products, and for customers, they can see the difference between my products and competitors because they know, okay, this is Apple. Okay, this is an Apple product. It must be a very good product. That's the benefit of branding and why they use trademarks. Otherwise, I could just put an Apple on this and create counterfeit. So that's the benefit of it. People use it as a way to differentiate, and you put it on your product. Legally, you can then stop others from using that mark. So it doesn't mean that someone can't use your mark, but it means if they do, that you can then combat that. You can then send them a lawyer's letter saying, we hold this trademark and we can take legal action unless you cease using our mark. So that's how it works. Generally, though, if you have an encircled R, like the registered trademark sign next to a brand name, like say there was one at the end of this here. No one else is going to want to use that then for risk of consequence. And before you have a registered trademark, I highly recommend you put the little TM. I'm looking for like props, but the TM sign. That means intent to trademark. So you don't have to have a registered one yet. put that next to your name, for example, here on the product, because a lot of people don't know the difference. They'll think TM means registered trademark, and it will scare them away as much as the encircled R. Now, what you're saying is, if I change the product design slightly, will I get in trouble? And what you're talking about then is a patent. That's different to a trademark. Remember, trademark's about the word. A patent is about product design. So let's say this remote control has some special like way that it works. Let's say, and it actually does have this, it's magnetic. So you can like stick this on something, which is really useful, by the way. But let's say that's patented. It's a patented design. Then you have to look into the patent that it is. You get utility patents, which are the strongest patents. It means I'm protecting the use of the innovation. So I'm literally protecting the fact that a remote control can magnetically be secured to something metal. That's a utility patent. I'm protecting the use of my innovation, which is it's the one you don't want to see if you want to sell that product, because it's much harder to get around that. A good example is Velcro. So Velcro is a heavily patented product, but that is such a good invention, the way it works. Everyone knows the term Velcro. In fact, it's so successful that that is a brand name, by the way, is now a way of talking about the product. It's the same way with tissues. Kleenex in the US is a big way of even referring to the product type. But that's getting a bit away from patents. And then the other type of patent is a design patent. So you have utility on the function, and you have design on how it looks. So that's, how it looks, the color, if this was a special type of color, etc. And so that's the other type of design patent. As with trademarks, you have to protect that right you have. So you could go Yamani and sell the product with a slight change. Fine, that's not illegal. But they can come to you and say, you cannot sell this, and we will take legal action if you don't stop selling it. But it's got to be, and that's if you don't make enough changes, like if you do their patented product. But I hope that explains how it works. The key is make significant design changes, Yamani, and work out, do they have a patent and what type of patent? Is it utility or design? Read up on exactly what they're protecting and then make a call. And I see, who was that who sent it? Okay, just finding my... So let's go with this one. And you got it, Agnes, and Happy New Year. Thank you for all your support as well. And my product selling at $35. The margin is just $3 per product. Should I give up on that product? That is very low, Edith. Yeah, if that's your profit margin, and if that's your profit margin before considering PPC, definitely that's very low, Edith. It's going to be hard. And really, it's up to you, but you have to decide if that's worth your time. That's quite low. I would like to see that 3 times that, just for reference. So I would first work on, are there ways you can make it that, like a $9 margin, before considering ads, which is still tight. and then make your call on that. How do you get initial reviews for your newly launched product? The best way is to drive visibility, especially if you want to do it organically. Just have a great product. That's number one, and an amazing main image. I see too many people that have such a good product, and I look at their main image and I'm like, man, you just need to represent it. Just show the value on the front. Then run ads, put it at the very front. That's going to get you those initial sales and then hopefully reviews. Secondly, you can run Amazon Vine if you're brand registered. But those are the big organic ways I would do it, Sean. There are other I don't want to say black hat tactics, because they're basically doing what Amazon Vine does, but not on Amazon. So I don't personally, unless you see a Vine as black hat, you can't call them black hat. But there are other services off of Amazon, which are like focus groups, who will review your product for you. And there's nothing saying they have to leave a 5-star review. So it's up to you on that. Everyone has very different opinions on that. I got some flack for a video on that. But I think you guys should rather know than not know what these things are and how they work. And listing hijackers. So Sadaf, we literally covered this in the very beginning of this session. So definitely rewind to that. This replay will also be live, but we literally had a whole segment at the beginning of this on that. I'll also add timestamps once we are complete. Thank you, Sandrita. I really appreciate that. And thank you guys all for joining. This is really cool. A cool way to start the year. And thank you, Mac. And the same to you. Let's get them. And how would you rate the UK market? For me, I would say the UK is probably, it's a tough one. It wouldn't be the first place I sold, although it was when I began selling. It wouldn't be the first place. I would choose the US. The reason that the UK and Europe is much more difficult in a lot of respects, just in my opinion, because there is lower competition, way lower ad spend. So it's really a balance. But at the same time, you've got the complexities of VAT to deal with. And you're meant to pass it on to the customers, but it does impact the pricing. Also, Amazon is clamping down on that because it was quite an unfair game where some didn't have to put the VAT on, some did. And it's like, I mean, 20% is a lot in the price, 20% VAT. But second is lower sales numbers. So that can be a lower opportunity cost than if to design the product. Let's say you design this product. This is the worst example product. But you design this, takes you the same amount of time with the supplier, everything, listing, and then it sells 1,000 times a month in the US and 300 times a month in the UK. Do you see what I'm saying? So but then in the US, you're going to pay more on ads. But in the UK, you're going to pay, you've got the VAT complexity. So it's really what you're more comfortable with. Personally, for me, I would choose the US over that. And I would rank UK top 5 for sure. But it would really depend. I would say probably it's close with Germany. I don't know if I'd put Germany in second or the UK in second. But those are top 3, US, Germany, UK. And you got it, Kalsoon. And thank you, Zed, and everyone here. And thank you all for letting me know you can hear it. And Abdul, thank you very much. You are the first person ever to send me a super sticker or a super chat. So at least we know those are working. Thank you. That's awesome. And let me see here. And Umair, again, I just want to refer this one. We did a whole piece on listing hijacking right in the beginning of this video. I'll put timestamps afterward. And Huma, I'm glad that you got that sorted. Everyone wants to know about the hijackers. Here's another one. So Sadaf, you can find a section on this beginning of the vid. What do I do when the market changes and becomes competitive? That's when you have to choose in or out. So Huam, I would say just the key is to try and make sure you have that buffer. Like that's why I always recommend a bit of a higher sell price and at least a 40% profit margin before you're considering ads. The reason why is because when it changes, then you've got a little bit of flexibility to push ads more aggressively, etc. So that's the key, is just to work out, okay, why is it more competitive? In what way? Is it people dropping their prices? Is it more competitors? Is it more advertising? And then work based on that. A lot of it comes down to product design, though, if I stay on this one a second, because if you have a genuinely better product, you're giving people so much reason to choose yours over price, over reviews, over even advertising. So that's the key, is it all begins with the product design. Spend a lot of time. If you spend 3 months designing your product, do not rush. Build a great product. That's going to, while everyone's trying to change price, change advertising, change images, your actual product provides almost all of that to you for free. That's where it begins. And then, of course, there's supplemental strategies you can put on top. But it's not like I think sometimes we look at it too much like a system. Like, okay, you just get a product from China and you just do this process and put it there and then do this ad process. It's like, it's not like that. It's a business. So think of it like, don't even think of Amazon. Think of your product. Think of your innovation. Think of your brand, and only that. Amazon is the way you're giving that to the world. That's a better way of looking at it and focusing on that invention, innovation, product, even if it's just a better product, but focus on that first. And then Amazon's your way of giving that to the world, rather than, okay, this guy did this and got that from there and put it here and did this and it'll work. That's not how it works. So, and it could work, but that's what results in price wars and everything, because everyone's got the same exact product using the same exact system. And then the only things left to compete on are reviews and price. So it's not where you want to be. Oh, cool. Agnes, once you manufacture a new mold design, so not mole, I think you mean mold, like a mold would actually shape this out of plastic. And do you apply and get the patent protected? If you don't, what if another seller copies your designs and sell it under their brand name? What can you do to avoid this? So Agnes, one of the things with molds, and this is like a cool segue, but one of the things with creating a new product, let's say your mold actually punches out this like shape of remote control. in the press. That's what your mold is, by the way. So you might pay like $10,000 for this mold, which creates your product, essentially. It's your mold. But when you create it, inside the mold, inlay your brand, your registered trademark inside the mold. So when that tool is used, no matter what, it prints this brand name or indents this brand name onto the product, no matter what. That's number one. Because now anyone using your mold is legally, I don't want to say legally infringing, but you have legal backing to say, hey, you're using my brand name without rights. I have not given you rights to use my brand name. It's on the product. So that's one. Two, for a patent, you're going to have a prototype. So you're going to have to actually either use the mold to create a few units or create a prototype in another way. But you need to have that, and then you can apply for a patent. I would also apply for the patent in your selling marketplace. So if you're selling in the US, apply for the patent there with USPTO, etc. But those are the main things you can do. Another thing is, in the meanwhile, you can say patent pending on the listing with your submission number. I've seen a lot of sellers do that, and it works very well because people then don't want to sell that product, as evidenced here with all the patent questions. So it will ward off a lot of people. And Muchi, this is a really tough question. So how do you do competitor analysis, or how do you even identify which products sell the best if there are multiple variations? So a seller doesn't just sell one product, but they sell 5 variations of it on one listing. It's very hard to tell which of the 5 is the best seller. So it's very difficult to do. The best thing I can suggest is, number one, look for competitors who aren't doing the variations on one, but they have the 5 separately listed. There you will be able to tell which one sells best. Second, which ones are on the front of their listing? Like, is it the green, red, blue, orange? Which one's on the front of the sponsored listing when they run ads? Because what they're going to do when they run PPC ads, they're going to choose the one that converts the best as the front. Okay, the variation, the SKU on the front of the ad. That's going to be their target in the PPC campaign. Once people click it, they'll see all of them. But that's also going to tell you which one converts the best. And Sadaf, yes, this entire session is recorded and live now. So you will be able to watch it back. Good question as well. Hey, Dan, after making some sales in the US market, when would you suggest going to the others? Not soon. It gets complex. And I've seen this with a lot of sellers. So I speak from experience. They expanded the other way to me. I went Europe, US. They went US, Europe. And there is so much more to it. There's a right time to do it, and it's a smart decision at a certain point. But VAT registration, now the UK is separate to the EU, so you have to have double VAT registration, double EORI numbers. There's like this whole other piece to the puzzle, and price sensitivity is much higher in Europe. So you're literally going to have to reevaluate the product and say, okay, is this going to be profitable in Europe? Because I sell for $40 in the US, but I can only sell for 25 or 20 pounds in the UK. Now, does it even make sense? So you have to do this reevaluation. Again, it's not by no means a copy paste, and it will work. So, however, from the US to the other markets is a much better way of expanding, in my opinion, because if you are succeeding in the US, the most competitive one, you can go to almost any other market. It's going to be less competitive, and you're probably going to do all right. But you do have to reevaluate things. Because, for example, US consumers are much less price sensitive than European customers. So, to answer your question, I would say I would get a good 5 orders in at least with your product before considering expanding. And even then, why not expand in the US? That would be my question. Is there not a neighboring product which would work really well with your brand in the US? And the market, you know this whole thing already. Leverage that than going and learning something totally new with the same one product. So I would expand the product line locally first. That would be my advice there. And whoa, we're on 2 hours. So thank you guys for all of your questions. I'm not going to be able to get to all of these. I do apologize. But we will be doing some more Q&As like this, by the way, at the generosity of the members who actually want them to be live with everyone. So you can expect more of these, where I can get to everyone's questions and we won't have so much stuff in the beginning. Okay. Just looking for anything different. And thank you very much, Amazon Learner. This is a cool question. So we might actually do this. I'm not sure. I don't want to make any promises yet, but do you guys have a service to review a listing and give recommendations? We've actually done 2 videos like this where you can send me your listing and I will actually review it live on a video. So you have to be okay sharing what the product is. But then again, everyone's finding high potential products anyway. So you have to be okay with that part. However, I will review your listing for you and give my guidance on what I would change, how I would move things around. Whether that will become a service or not, I don't know, Zayed. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. We will see in the future. But check like 2-3 videos ago if you do want to submit your listing as well. And I will go over it in a future video. And Moto, I am running out of inventory only for one of my variations. Can I go edit close listing for a child ASIN? Or will this close the entire listing and all variations? So it should not close the entire parent. It should just close that one variation. So just make sure you click the drop down, open the parent, find the child, edit close listing. Also, it's also not a major problem. So like if for some weird reason it did close the parent, you can just reopen it. Because the parent's still going to rank because the other one is still in stock. So it's not a major, but it should not. It should close the single variation Moto. And Moto, I do not sell on the Japanese marketplace as of yet. But some interesting markets in the eastern side of the world that I do want to explore more. Dan, can I connect with you on Instagram? I'm active there mostly. I am active there leastly. I'm not on Instagram very often. I actually feel a bit bad. I need to keep putting stuff there, but it's not my big thing. But coding, just check out the link below or send me an email on the from the about section of the channel. Yes, humor, you can. So you can sell on Amazon, like private label, actually physical products, and you can be a part of the Amazon Associates program, which is the Amazon affiliate program. I'm a part of both. So yes, that's not a problem. But you cannot, I'm pretty sure, because I know what you're thinking, I'll promote my own product and get the commission and the sale. I don't believe you can do that. I'm like 99%. I haven't checked the TOS, but I'm 99% sure they won't allow that. I plan to ask my friend to give a good review on my product, but he has used my Wi-Fi at my house. Is this a problem? No, I don't think it will be a problem based on that. Amazon's not that smart. But like he mustn't have, like, obviously he wouldn't, but they mustn't have the same last name. They shouldn't be like tracked on your social media apparently, but obviously I don't know. Like, this is just the theory. That should be fine though. That's funny. And you got it, Sadaf. And MD, I have opened a seller account. I'm looking for a mentor to learn the business in person, not online. Would you recommend something for that? I'm not sure, actually, especially in the current environment, that you'll find that specific thing. But you're just going to have to look locally for individuals. But yeah, I think everyone wants a bit more of that in person after this whole thing. And Kalsoon, what is the best way to validate a product to ensure it sells? So we also covered a bit on this, but definitely just check the sales numbers. That's the biggest thing. I sometimes see a lot of sellers focusing on keyword search volume, and they get all stuck on search volume. And I used to do that, so I sympathize with that. But the key is you can see the sales. So it's so much stronger than search volume. So I always look at search volume, at sales, not search volume, because those are the kind of the end of the line. You know, search volume's here and then they buy. So you can look at this part. So don't look in the middle. Sales, that's the key. And the best way, Kalsoon, is market entry. So low review sellers, less than 100 reviews, are selling well. That's the key. That's my biggest, always has been my biggest check. So if I see more than 3 sellers, page 1, less than 100 reviews on their listings, each of them sell more than 500 sales a month in the US, could be 300 a month in Europe, then that's a good sign. That's the best way. Now, second to that, and is much harder for me to explain, but is you have to develop a better product. You'll notice a lot of the questions here are about price or how to compete or ads or these things. But if you build that product differently or better, so the next check would be, how much can I improve this product and differentiate it and better it? And that is your next check. If you pass both those checks, feeling really confident, like you can make a significant change to a product that sells well at low reviews, that's a great validation. And yes, Zayed, I'll also link that video below. So there will be like 30 videos linked there. Just kidding. There'll probably be like, I think it's like 6 videos and then a bunch of resources. But guys, we're going to close up. We're at 2 hours, 10 minutes. But I want to thank each and every one of you so much for joining this. I really, really appreciate it. It's a great start to the year. And I hope this did share some insight as well. I look forward to doing more of these publicly with you as well. But check out the description below for all the other stuff we did talk about. And I wish you many, many sales this year. I know 2021 was quite a hard year, and perhaps even harder than 2020. But I have a good feeling about 2022. Again, thank you guys so much for joining today. Have an awesome start to the year, and I will catch you in the next video.